Let's try something new for a change. So you guys already know that there is a whole channel on the Discord server dedicated to video requests. Side note, come join the server, the link is in the description, and the reaction rolls thing is working again. Sorry about that. But one of our funniest members on there, Breezy, asked if I could do a more real-time-ish tutorial. Now this is super important because a lot of the times when you look at art tutorials online, they are usually super sped up. And it can be quite disheartening when you watch a tutorial like that, knowing full well that it's been super sped up, but still not being able to paint that thing in 10 minutes. Again, you know fully well that it has been sped up and no one can paint like that in 10 minutes, but the subconscious mind is rarely known to be logical. Well, I want to share with you a new format of tutorials on this channel where I show you the painting process a little closer to real time and share with you random but important painting tips. And we're going to pilot this series today where I share with you some tips on how to paint even better eyes. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, you've probably watched my other tutorial on eyes where I share with you how to paint life into your eyes, but today is going to be a little more general, a little more rendering style. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then please remember to like, comment, share and subscribe. It helps the channel out so much. And if you'd like some actual real-time paint-along style tutorials every single week, come check out my Patreon, the link is in the video description. Alright, let's dive right in. Okay, this month I really want to double down on the Light Zodiac series, so we're gonna take a look at the third installment, Gemini. As you can see here, I've just put down a super rough sketch for the moment, and we're gonna paint it a little differently to my usual workflow just for the sake of this series. And I'll tell you more about this particular painting in a later video. So let's take a look at my 4 tips to even better eyes. This is a technique that we looked at in depth on my Patreon back in May, but here's the best way to position your eyes and the head, and I like to call it the sunglasses technique. Basically, once we have a rough lay-in of the head and where the center line is gonna go, we're gonna place in not the eyes, but the eye socket. And just to make our lives easier, instead of literally drawing an anatomically correct eye socket, we're gonna create this rounded hexagon type shape, almost like the glasses in your sunnies. So you're gonna have the upper edge arch a little towards the outside of the face. This is your brow ridge. Then you're gonna bring that down to a rounded rectangle at the lower edge. This is your under eye area, and it will help you place the lower eyelid and the upper cheek skin. And finally, you join back up next to the nose bridge, and that is your inner eye socket. With this in place, I like to first rough in the crease of the upper eyelid, which helps us control the upper edge of the lash line. And then we go in and rough in the rest of the outline, keeping everything as loose and malleable as possible. Always remember that the highest point of the upper eyelid is on the inside of the eye, and the lowest point of the lower eyelid is on the outside. When you mess around with these points and their positions, within reason of course, it helps you create a bunch of different shapes and variations. So now that I have a rough sketch, I'm going to lower the opacity and on a new layer, clean up the line work, tightening some of those marks and just making everything even simpler. This is something I see a lot of beginner artists do, and that is to paint the creases around the eyes as solid lines. Solid lines are necessary, but if you just put them on flat color, you're gonna lose all dimension. In other words, instead of looking like a fold in the skin, your crease is gonna look like a scratch mark on top of the surface. This is where squash and stretch come into play, because remember, the eyeball is a sphere with 3 dimensions. It is not a flat circle with some spray paint on. So when it comes to painting the folds around the eyes, you need to keep in mind 2 important concepts: ambient occlusion ATTRIBUTION and squash and stretch. If you have no idea what these mean, let me explain. Ambient occlusion is a type of shadow created when two surfaces are so close to each other that light can't enter that gap. So for instance, if you were to ball up your hand into a fist, you'd find that the creases in your bunched up fingers appear quite dark no matter how bright it might be around you. That's because that space is too tiny for light to enter and reflect, and it causes an ambient occlusion. But if you notice, these ambient occlusion shadows in your fist are not just flat dark lines on the surface of your skin, they are creases that are formed by two fleshy bits squashing together, which leads us to squash and stretch. This is literally a topic we're looking at in depth on Patreon right now, but squash and stretch isn't just a surface phenomenon, it is the movement of two masses that impact each other, creating weight shifts below the surface. So in the fold of the upper eye, while you do see a line of shadow due to the ambient occlusion, always remember that the line is a result of squashing, where the upper and lower half of your upper eyelid are being pushed together since the eye is open. So not only will you have a bit of a shadowy gradient on either side of the fold itself, you'll also see little areas of light just beyond that shadow where the mass of tissue is being pushed towards after being squashed away from that fold. And this also applies to the fine lines under the eye, or even smile or laughter lines on the outer corners when the subject is smiling. It's not just a flat line, it is a fold. So it's gonna have a gradual ambient occlusion, and it's gonna have pockets of light on either side of the fold, because that's where the mass is being pushed. Imagine that you're sat in a room with a window to your right. Close one eye and the window is to your right. Open that eye and close the other eye and the window is still to your right. When we paint specular highlights, one very common bad habit is to aim for symmetry. So if you have one bright dot of white on the inside of one iris and one bright line on the outside, your general tendency would be to mirror it on the other side with a dot on the inside of the other eye and the line on the outside. We do this because we seek harmony, and symmetry is the most harmonious thing in the world. But this is the point where you need to consider the logic and physics of your scene. Just like with the window I spoke of earlier, no matter which eye you look through, the light source doesn't change positions, at least in a still image. So when you paint specular highlights in the eye, make sure that they are in the same order on both sides, but in a global sense. So if the line-shaped speck is to the left of the white dot, keep it that way in both eyes. Now there is an exception to this rule, and that is if you only place one solid round specular highlight in each eye. In that case, you can get away with mirroring it because it could be explained by one spotlight front and center. But in general, I like to add multiple specular highlights to really push the glossiness of the eyes, and the second you have two or more lights, you need to step away from symmetry. This is one of those little details that might seem like it doesn't matter, but then when you look at the end product, something is going to feel a little off and you won't be able to tell what it is. Also, you guys, I don't want you to think that I'm sitting here judging you for making these painting errors. I've absolutely done this and worse. I once painted a baby to literally have two left feet, so like I'm literally in no position to judge. This is just lessons I've learned over time, and I know that these will help you guys, alright? Eyelashes, the most therapeutic part of painting the eye. You guys don't even want to know how much money I've spent trying to get my actual lashes to look like the ones I paint. Now, you obviously know that the direction and length of the eyelashes are important. So you have longer lashes turned outwards on the outside of the eye, you have shorter inward facing lashes on the inside of the eye, and you have medium length upturned lashes in the middle of the eye, and it's all mirrored vertically on the smaller lashes on the lower eyelid, right? But today I want to give you a couple of important tips on rendering the eyelashes to give you that super pretty stylized look. First and foremost, don't just use a line or sketch brush. Instead, go for a pressure opacity brush. This is my magic brush. Like I said last week, we're married. Call me Mrs. Srish brush. My husband's called Magic. Not to be confused with Magic Mike, who is actually the one that got away. No, but seriously, this is a simple hard-edged round brush where I've set the flow and opacity to pen pressure. So the harder you press down on it, the more opaque the color. And with eyelashes, I like to pick a black color and use this brush to just flick the lashes out. When you use more of a flicking motion for the eyelashes, it causes you to start heavy and then flick out super light. And when the opacity is set to pressure, it creates these lashes that are super dark at the root and flick out into lighter ends. Not only does this cause the lashes to look more fluffy and pretty, it also seems to kind of blur out the ends of each lash. And that creates a feeling of movement, as if the person has been blinking or looking around. Try it, it's way better than static eyelashes created by a standard line art brush. And the other tip for better eyelashes is to actually grab a mid-tone shade that is very visible against the black and flick in some lashes with that right into the shadow of the upper eyelid. Just one or two, don't overdo it. This basically creates the effect of some stray eyelashes catching the same light that causes specular highlights in the eye. It just adds a little more interest, some movement in that dark shadow under the eye. And there's our even better eyes. I didn't really want to follow any particular order, I just wanted to give you some random little tips and tricks that can help you make your art slightly better in tiny increments. And I hope that is the overall outcome of this series, really, to help you level up in little steps. If you've enjoyed this format and this video and found it helpful, then please do let me know by giving it a big thumbs up and leaving a comment below. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a future upload on this channel. Maybe share this video with someone you think might enjoy it and find it helpful as well. Plus, again, we're looking a lot deeper into every single art fundamental over on my Patreon, so if you'd like to grab exclusive content at least 4 times a week, come check it out, the link is in the video description. Come say hi on Discord and show me your even better eyes, I would love to see them. But with all of that said, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Check out some more videos up here and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye!